right, I'm going to call the meeting of the budget Whitman-Hanson Regional School District Budget Subcommittee to order. This we are recording this meeting. So let me grab one of the agendas. I'm sorry. Thank you. All right. So first on our agenda is public comment. Is there anyone that wants to speak in public comment? All right, Ms. Byers.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I wanted to follow up from the last meeting you had on December 9th. A couple days after that, I had emailed you with 3 questions. Mm-hmm. So I believe they're going to be addressed tonight, but I just wanted to summarize and read those 3 questions, topics into the public comment. One was about the $150,000 club stipends that was said it was not budgeted for. So some clarification on that, because the Munis report showed that there was funds and budgeted. The second was to confirm the availability of the grant funding revenue for 21st century grants. And the third was the enrollment figure. It stated 250 additional students in district. So I just wanted to see if that will be addressed, because we had email communications.
Yep.
Thank you, Chair, that you said you may respond during the meeting.
Yep. So I know we have an answer for especially the enrollment one, because I think that was something that was a question, because I think at our last meeting they said there was an additional 250 kids this year, and that ended up not being correct. So we looked into that, and that and I know Ms. Byers, you had given us numbers from DESE show different numbers than what we had, and I think Dr. Marcus, you talked to.
So what you actually saw in the email that showed 707 or whatever it was at the high school was in a way a clerical error, to the extent that that report or that spreadsheet was run after the seniors had left, hence minus 250 kids, because that's the number of seniors. So if you had run the report, before May, whatever it is, then it would have showed those kids in as seniors.
So this is
it's the fact that those numbers were run, for a date after the seniors weren't there anymore. So
and this is for FY25. So the FY25 numbers showed.
Right.
And what I had done was I took the numbers because they were broken out by town, so it wasn't immediately obvious how it was, because these are all the Whitman kids and where they go. So this is how many, so each of the schools and how many. There was one table that had all of the Whitman students at those schools. So even something like Hanson Middle has so many kids from Whitman that go there because there are programs there, and Whitman Middle has kids from Hanson and so on. I combined all those numbers, and then it became very obvious that the 250 was exclusively at there was a dip at the high school in 2025. So we looked into it. And Dr. Marcus looked into it, and Dr. Jones, yeah. Okay.
What I found was that when I ran the report, I'm trying to see if I can pull it up. When I ran the report, in state reporting, you're coding kids for different things, and one of the codes in terms of who's actually in your buildings is code 01, which is resident/member. And so when I ran the same report that actually Mr. Tressel had, I also saw a whole bunch of kids, 250-ish, that didn't have the 01 code. And it's oh my goodness, did we mess this up? And then I realized that I did the exact same thing that whoever ran it the first time did, which is I ran it at the end of the year. Well, at the end of the year, you don't have any seniors, and that's why it's 250 less. If I had run it with a date of whatever, March something.
So you were comparing last June to the current enrollment, and it looks, when you remove the seniors, then it looks like we have a 250 increase, but that's not the total enrollment from last year. So
right. I mean, So when you look at the DESE numbers, they're pretty steady across. If you go to the website, 980, 970, 990. So I was pretty sure that there was some weird something that happened. And when I ran it, it's I found the weird thing. It's the 250 kids are not listed as 01 resident/member. What I didn't do, the next thing, is actually notice that all of those kids were grade 12. if I had seen that initially, I would have been like, oh,
Warren?
Sorry, I haven't been to these meetings before, so if I say something that sounds really stupid, please just let me know. It's pretty standard practice. So every school system has to report to the state the number of students on October 1st every
Right.
year. It's pretty standard practice that whenever you do any comparative analysis of students, you pick that same point in time, that October 1st number that gets reported to the state. Not only is that a consistent moment in time, but it's also when people want to fact check you, then they go to the state website to see things, that will be the number that they will find on the state website also.
Right.
So it would, I guess that would be my recommendation, that whenever dealing with any type of student analysis or number of students, that October 1st number be the kind of the standard number that is pulled every time. That way it's kind of,
That was my assumption that was already being done.
okay.
well,
And that's
October
why it
1st
was
was
like
March 1st.
not
So, I
lining
mean,
up.
either one of those, March 1st or October 1st, would have captured the right
Right.
number. It's just, it's more that Infinite Campus is infinitely not a great program. And so when you go into it, there's this tiny little window that shows the date that you're actually running the report on. So you're right, that if we had looked at that more carefully, we would have run October 1st and March 1st.
And to your other two questions, Don, I have to apologize. I didn't directly follow up with Brian on this, but I don't know if you, in terms of the grant numbers, that was something that you had a question about, Don. I didn't directly follow up with Brian, so if you don't have the answer for it, it's fine. But I didn't know if you knew what, or if, Rosemary, did you?
I had,
Oh,
we had talked about that in terms of hold harmless.
Do you mind restating the question, Tom?
Sure.
About the grants?
21st century grant funding.
Yeah.
So it was
Not that, but
shared on the screen 3 separate 21st century grants. One labeled as high school intern and 28,000 available revenue. 21st century continuation and then continuation B. And I just looked on the DESI same resource of 21st century grant details and was looking for clarification based on the remaining revenue that the administration had provided at the last meeting versus the available grant funding, right? What was, I understand what the initial award was for the grant, and we've used some of it, and this is the remaining revenue. And just, I found it strange, and again, wanted to clarify, because the 2 continuation grants, one of them reported by the district was that we still had 215,000 available revenue coming in. And the other one was only 41,000. So I'm asking for how we're allocating the staff resources against the grant revenue. It looks like we haven't even utilized any of the continuation B grant funding if in December it said we still had the full available grant funding.
Right.
So
There's one of the biggest pieces of that is that a lot of this is summer programs, right? So you're not going to see a large percentage of those figures being drawn down until the summer. So that's a piece of it, not everything,
Yeah.
but that's a piece of it. And then the other is the sort of the shift that we've had in sort of who was the coordinator, and where's the coordinator is now has left the district, and so that there's 50,000 there that would be encumbered and be spent, but now we have to reallocate that in some way. So there are other things in there, and then there's plenty of programs left to go where we wouldn't have encumbered it yet.
yeah, and I know these are both for the Whitman Middle School and the Hanson Middle School after school enrichment program, so I'm thinking with September, October, November at least under the belt that maybe a third of that would have gotten utilized. So just, again, maybe it's all being drawn down from the first continuation grant and not continuation B, because that's what it appears like. Most of the revenue is done,
That's right.
gone from first continuation.
Rosemary?
just to follow up, we would draw the summer first, wouldn't we? If we were to, because
That's this fiscal year.
that would be that
Right.
fiscal year, so it would be the reverse, I would think.
Well, I don't know how we're paying for the summer, so I'm going to have to look into if it's paid out of.
It's post July 1st, it'll be for this year.
Right.
So if you're saying, what very well could be the case is that we haven't yet done the journal entries. We haven't one drawn down from DESI yet, and that money is allocated to be used when the money's drawn down and it matches. So what's
It's encumbered.
Right, the difference in GEM, this is called GEMS, that's what the system is GEMS is different than the old system, which used to be called Grantium. Grantium, they let you pull the money down and use it and then match the final report at the end. So what takes place now is until you have all your ducks in a row, you can't even pull down the money. So, sure.
And this is just an ask. If we're here looking at budgets and we're trying to make a plan forward, really having clearer information is really going to be needed, not if or maybe we did this, just sort of double checking.
Well, and then I like this is on
I can't answer a question if I don't know.
Right, this is-
Prepared if I don't have.
yeah. So this is that's on me, and I apologize for that because I was focused. I focused a lot of my energy trying to get the enrollment thing figured out, and
This isn't just for any.
No, I know, yeah, but this particular thing was a question that Dawn had asked, and I didn't directly follow up with George and Brian about it because I was, like I said, I
It was
focused.
asked in the meeting as well.
It was asked in the meeting, yeah.
And it
So
was asked because I think I asked it in the meeting, and I asked for where those children were, where they were, and part of that was at graduation. That was what I thought.
Yeah,
I said,
Yeah.
where are they?
Yeah.
And I had wondered exactly
yeah.
what had
Oh,
happened.
absolutely. Yeah.
Because it was such a large amount of students. But also, we want to get a sense of where we are in hold harmless. That's another.
Hold harmless in terms of Chapter 70.
In terms of Chapter 70, how many students are we losing? Are we producing a product that's keeping students
Right.
here?
Right. Can you
go ahead. Yeah.
Sure. Do you mind speaking to the hold harmless piece and then the additional, because it's a critical piece for folks to understand in terms of how we're working on building 27. And you heard my conservative spiel today, so you can say yours, but then I'll say my conservative spiel. So
Sure. So in FY '26, we received, we budgeted 25 million, almost 26 million for Chapter 70. After the budgeting process was completed, there was an additional $75 per student. Gave us an extra 20 grand or so. So we're going into 27 with the assumption that Chapter 70 is 26,188,146. If we are held harmless, which we likely will be, we'll have an additional anywhere from $50 to $75. Lauren will probably speak better on this.
$30 is almost guaranteed.
Right.
The ask right now is for $175.
So I budgeted over.
You're not going to get it.
I like that.
That's the ask.
So we're planning on $50 a student, conservatively. It'd be great if we got $175 a student. But if it's $50 a student, we have 3,423 students. That's roughly 200 grand. So that's what we're going to go into as a budget number for 27. Will that be accurate? Well, we're not going to know until the governor releases their budget later in the month. The Ways and Means Committee, it's signed into legislation, not till probably July. That's why there was an issue this year with 2 Chapter 70 monies, 25 or 26. The number was 26,188, 146.
If I may.
Yep.
So to further that in your question, in our leadership meeting today where we were digging into FY27, one of my assumptions that I want to, and this is conservative, that's why I'm saying that I think I made some people crazy because I'm being conservative, but I want to go in and assume that it's 26,188. I don't want to go in and assume that it's another $200,000 on top of that. So built into, and you'll see it in our projections, is the additional $200,000 that we got. And I think to Warren's point and what Brian is saying, you probably could then also bake in another 200 grand. And we probably will, because when push comes to shove, we're probably going to do that. But I just want to be very cautious about making any assumptions that it's going to be X, Y, or Z. And I'd rather be conservative about it than.
No, he's talking about an additional $30 a student.
Oh, in the
I'm just
additional 30.
pushing beyond. He's saying his conservative push is to take the number we got this year
and then
And just
add
simply
the
roll that same number over.
Sure.
The less conservative is to take the $30. The even less conservative is to say we're gonna get a little bit more than that,
Right.
which I wouldn't recommend that.
And
Right.
you're
So I think we're somewhere, sorry.
so you're talking about
Minimum per
the
pupil.
minimum
Per
per
pupil.
pupil,
Right. Right.
the amounts
Yeah,
outside.
we're
of-
assuming the hold harmless. I think that's really critical because, as you said, and I brought this up, I'll bring it up tonight at school committee, is this notion of enrollments and the talk that's out there about, everybody everywhere, every district for the most part is dropping in enrollment for various reasons. And if the hold harmless process was not maintained, we would be among many districts that would be in trouble. And I think that's why they've continued to maintain the hold harmless since COVID. I don't foresee that going away. Everybody I've talked to doesn't foresee that going away. But to your point, when you see our enrollment doing this, you kind of go, oh.
What's our
Like,
product?
so,
What's our product?
yeah, but I think, business managers can speak to the fact that the state would be, there would be some major hits if they gave up the hold harmless right now. So
Just because I like to make sure, because there might be people here or people listening later that don't know what hold harmless means. Would Brian or Dr. Marcus, would you just briefly explain what hold harmless means for?
It means you're going to get what you got last year, nothing less, plus an additional X amount of dollars per student.
And it's called hold harmless because even though our enrollment's dropping, they don't want to. They want to hold us as being harmless from that drop because obviously if they base it on our dropping enrollment, we would lose some of our Chapter 70 money that we got. So it's to keep it level, but it's not a great position to be in because it means that we're losing students and that we're not getting big increases in our Chapter 70 money. Yeah,
And
Rosemary.
Just to be clear, the hold harmless isn't that extra per student. That's minimal local aid.
correct.
Yeah, and that can fluctuate. I think that they're non-needs based is the argument that there's groups that are
Yeah.
looking to.
Yes, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think as Mr. Hyde said, it's if we got 26,188 this year, they can't turn around and say, well, whoops, we're going to give you less. So that's the whole harmless piece, and that is a result. I think I'm correct on this, but Mr. McCallum, Mr. Hyde can correct me. Is a result of COVID and the couple of years after COVID where everybody's enrollments dropped like crazy, and you couldn't then go after towns for losing hundreds of kids.
Yeah, so yes and no.
Okay.
There was an original formula back, well, I forget what year it was.
1995.
94.
Where they put a formula out which said this is the minimum expense that a district should spend on educating a child. And it was this kind of number they almost picked out of the clouds. What has happened over the next 20 years is some districts are getting significantly more money than they should be entitled to by that. So the way to catch up to the communities who are not making as much money or not getting what they should be getting is to push them up. But without hurting the districts who are already getting too much, they're holding them to a minimum $30 per student.
Perfect.
So they're not going, well, the other districts have been given 100, 150 to try to get people all to the place where they're getting the correct amount of money
Gotcha.
that they
I
have.
think the confusion between that formula and COVID was the formula was corrected with the Student Opportunity Act
Right.
around
Right.
the same time.
Right.
And it was
Good point.
that transition occurred at a faster rate during that time.
Yep, good point.
I just like to add one thing. Enrollment dropping is many factors. It's not just the product that we're putting out. I know some people, and I'm sure there are very high performing districts that you work in, as probably enrollment is down as well.
We are one of the only school systems that has not dropped, but we have maintained flat.
But
We're seeing everyone around us. Cohasset is dropping to the point where they may not be able to hold the school system together pretty soon. They may have to merge. Hull is almost out of students completely.
yeah,
And they're in negotiations with Cohasset and potentially Hingham to come together. Everybody's dropping across the entire state. If you're lucky, you're in a district that's holding still. So the dropping of the numbers is not necessarily a reflection of people trying to get out of town.
Yeah, I don't know one district that's increasing enrollment.
But I
don't know.
want to pause on this really quickly. 30 years of hold harmless is an indication that you may have a problem. And it is common practice, well known, and being at the bottom 1% for many years of funding is an indication you might have a problem.
Yep.
And people might be choosing a different product. So yes, that might be happening now, but considering that is happening in addition to a weaker position that we started in, should be part of our conversation.
Okay, Ms. Byers, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just further context on the hold harmless, when we talk about, from the budget book.
Yep.
Favorite book, right? There was the chapter 70 page. So the actual aid the district was eligible for was 23.4 million. So if we're getting 26 million, there's context, right? If there was no hold harmless, we'd be losing almost $3 million if the state didn't have that. So just a little context.
Yep.
We get more than we should. That's the what should we be getting.
Right.
Based on last year's chapter 70 was 23.4 million.
Right. Thank you,
And there
Don.
was one other question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and the other one was,
Thank you, Dr. Marcus.
real quick, thanks, on high school
clubs,
stipends, the
activity.
clubs, so it was
Yeah.
said it was $150,000 on that step-by-step sheet that didn't get budgeted, so we were gonna sort of have to find money to pay those. And my ask was, from the Munis report, there's $80,000 budgeted. So again, wanted to clarify, maybe, hopefully we have 80,000 of the 150, and it's not as much of a loss that we need to find on that.
The,
This is the line I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I don't see the high school.
So it's
So
account
under- yeah, go ahead.
3520, other student body activities.
yeah,
It does say HS, high school co-curricular, 80,164.
gotcha, yeah.
So is that the same as what was explained? We have to pay 150,000 in the high school clubs and we didn't have a budget for it. So I'm seeing, it
I
looks
think
to
that
me
was-
like there's an $80,000
That
budget.
was high school athletics. So
Are you talking about I think she's talking about in the, so maybe we're going to look at that document again tonight, Don, so, because it's an updated, so I think maybe if the confusion was not that there's $150,000 cut from activities, but wasn't it athletics that it was cut from? Is that what you?
Said it was club stipends.
Okay, all right.
I'm just going by maybe then the terminology since.
Yeah, no, I
changed,
think-
said club.
Yeah, well, let's go through it again, and I'm still not 100% sure that even after this, we're gonna have an answer, but.
We're working on it.
Yeah, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and partly that's on me, Don, because I didn't directly follow up with them on those two, because I was looking at enrollment, but I should have done all your questions. So, is there any other public comment before we move on? All right. So the next item on the agenda is approval of meeting minutes. I know TJ sent them to all of us. Did you guys get a chance to look at them? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the November and December meetings?
A motion?
Okay.
Oh, yeah, November, December, sorry.
Yep. So I'll second. Okay. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Okay. And Warren's going to abstain because he was not on the committee yet. All right. So next up on the agenda is the aforementioned update on FY26. So, George, do you want me to pull that up now to look at?
Yeah, Brian's gonna explain it.
Okay.
Is that open to you, right?
All right. Let's see. I want to make this. How visible is that for people to see?
I think I have to dim the lights, I think.
Okay.
If you
You don't
go,
have to go dark, but just, yeah.
you,
You'll see it, like, clears up a little bit. Yeah,
want to give it to the audience too? Or?
If you have extras, yeah. If anyone in the audience, if any of our guests want to have a paper copy, we have extra paper copy.
Ryan, do you wanna go from 125 to 150?
Sure.
Percentage up there?
Yeah.
Go. Giddy up.
I have it printed.
okay.
You can get.
Okay, so a few things. I have a copies of a FY26 budget actual as of December 31st. It's just a summary of the munis reports. And I also have the munis reports for the budget subcommittee in detail if you'd like. You already have those, don't you? For the committee tonight, this is for okay, so this work.
So that's step one, right?
Yeah, step one. So what we're going to do is look at the deficit that we're still addressing for FY26. The current extrapolated deficit as of 12/31/25 was $362,000, and this is payroll. So how we're going to address this issue is these 8 steps. Besides this payroll deficit, we have other deficits that within the FY26 budget. Retirement, 215, longevity, 90, 403 buyout payouts, 90, and stipends and payroll run out is about that's 150, I think, that Ms. Byers was talking about. So $545,000 additional. We're in a hole of $907,000 for this fiscal year still. We're going to reduce the deficit by our school choice revenue, which is 367. I'm going to drag up a little bit. And step 5, we have the grants. These are the grants that we're using for FY26. They total 673. You add that to the school choice revenue, and it gives us $1 million in revenue.
Can I just ask on those grants?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. You're probably gonna ask the same thing I'm asking.
So these were, is this the total of the grant itself, or is this just what was not?
This is what's used for, this is what has been allocated for the payroll.
So this is like additional grant money, or
No,
money
it's
that just
inclusive
wasn't budgeted in
of
the
the
first?
Title I. It's inclusive, let's say, I'm not sure the number off the top of my head, maybe like 400 grand. Of that, 300 is for
379 was Title I of that, which somewhere around
299 is going to be
299 is going to be used for teachers' payroll. Now, that hasn't been applied yet, so that's why it's showing that it's going to be applied.
So, but this was all part of your initial budget when you budgeted for 26. You had these grant amounts, and that was part of. You were planning on using this money into the budget at some point. Initially.
That wasn't here.
Yeah, for Title I, I take care of Title I, right. So the players change, and the amounts change, but yeah, so that's what takes place. So when the money's drawn down, it gets applied to it. So for example, there is a teacher who's at the Duval School who's in the regular payroll right
So,
now.
I guess my question was, so like, I see all these grants. What about like an IDEA grant?
It's used tuitions.
But is that, are these numbers here
Just
actually
payroll.
put into the original, but are they in the budget? When you build your initial budget, you know there's a long list of grants. Are those grant monies you know you're gonna get, are they incorporated into the budget? Are they
It
part
will be in 27.
Yeah, they were
so
not.
they weren't.
That's part, right. Yeah.
What we're doing for 27, I just want to jump ahead for a second.
Yep.
is that-
I actually was gonna say something separate. We're using this to offset, so your Title I, so you know the question I'm gonna ask.
Yeah, it's not supplanting.
It's not
supplemental.
It's actually,
Extra than what other schools have.
okay,
Because of
yeah, so
Title I school.
you're meeting those requirements.
I am.
Thank you so much.
But the expense, yeah, okay.
So we're going to take our total payroll for 27. We're going to subtract all our alternate funding sources. This is going to be listed all out in the budget document that you'll all receive. And it'll say like Title I, we're going to use $50,000 for reading specialists, $30,000 for this, and it'll add up to the $299,827. But I don't know if that process was taking place last year. I think there's budgeted people, and then waited for the grants to be approved in September. I don't know.
Keep going.
So,
Yeah.
so these are all our payroll stipends. Grants out of payroll, which is a 673. We have school choice revenue of 376. We have a total revenue of $1 million. Where am I now?
Step 6.
Step 6. So we're subtracting the amounts. We're subtracting amounts additional and not spent in FY27 about 20%.
We're accounting for changes that are going to take place in those numbers. Like for example, somebody leaves, somebody has a baby, so that's why there's that percentage that was deemed by us to say that 134,000 of that might not actually come to fruition and being spent. So that's why it's a deficit to go back to 906.
So is that clear? We have $1 million, we're saying 20% for contingency, gives us $906,000 that we're counting on to use for our grants to reduce our payroll, to offset our payroll. So now our payroll deficit is $1,000, $1,417. We have 40% employment. People that were reduction in force, we're estimating that at 162, which gives us $164,000 deficit to payroll at this level.
Can I just ask, are you actually seeing that coming through? Or, like, I know, like, in Norwell, we are hiring people all over the place, we're not finding enough people.
The good news is.
So are the people who were laid off, are they all getting jobs?
Yeah.
Are you seeing that on
Yeah.
actually?
We just had another one today. So we just had a person who was let go at the high school who just is going to start in Rockland next week. So we had, UDA or whatever, unemployment DA thing came through, and then adjusted the amount, obviously, that we're going to be charged for her unemployment. But I think, you can quote me because that's what you can do if you want, but there's, I believe there were 6 staff members and 4 of those had received full-time jobs. I would also say that there was like 8 paraprofessionals that were let go, and we tried to call back a few of them. 2 of them said, no, I'm all set, but we actually brought back a few of them for other open jobs. They didn't take their own jobs, but as a result, we are seeing decent dividends in our unemployment.
So are you willing, is there,
It's
wiggle in there.
so there's a lot of wiggle room within that 160?
Yeah. No.
Yeah, we can change that 20% number up here to pretty much anything we want to. No, this number right here,
Yeah.
162.
So that's a conservative.
Yes.
That's a conservative number
Yes.
on unemployment, but we're not expecting actually it's going to be probably less than that because a lot of people that were
Right.
reduced have now found
That
other.
is the total, and that is also the total unemployment of other people we had, not just as a result of this budget that left.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right, so we're at step 7. Our total payroll deficit is 164,000. Let's move up to step 8.
Now you add the rest.
Where am I? Step 8. So now we're looking at expense deficits. Unemployment, we budgeted 50 through December 31st. We spent 66. We extrapolated it out to 133, which gives us 133 minus 50 is the 8313. It's the actual expenses through December.
Well, with the extrapolation is what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's our, as of the end of this date, whatever this is, December 31st, that's what I expected variance to be.
Okay.
Well, so hold on. So
Yeah.
you've got a variance there of the 83,000. So how does that relate to the 162 you just got on the page before for the same unemployment?
I think this is what Georgia just said. That was the unemployment for reduction in force.
So
Okay,
that
so-
hasn't been, I don't know what you
Okay.
call it in budgetary terms, but
Yeah.
reconciled, I guess?
Yeah, it hasn't been reconciled.
Right. So
Yes,
this
I'll
is
just scroll up for a second so you can see
from
both
the
of them.
unemployment agency that
This
we paid.
this one says this one is for the reduction in force, original reduction in force, and this just says unemployment. So I think that's what Georgia's saying.
We
That
have
there's
more people on unemployment that have to. So, for example, we had. There's unemployment for everything in Massachusetts. So that is the total that I think it's called DUI, DUA rather.
rather.
Not DUI.
Yeah, I know.
DUA that's what that number comes from on the first expense.
So you're saying the total unemployment, assuming those numbers hold and whatever, would you add those together? Because that's what's happening here, right? You're adding this unemployment variance and the other unemployment above. That's all part of the 1.197 you got below.
Right. That's part of what we're trying because we had to take some actual team estimates to try to get this. So if you look on the bottom of page 2, those are the assumptions that you have.
We're not there yet.
Right.
Okay, so back to E2, retirement system, we budgeted $3.5 million. We spent through the December 31st, which is the entire, we've already paid up all our retirement systems, $4 million. We're in the whole $650. That was a surprise to all of us when we got the bill from the DOR. I think we budgeted 1.8 and the bill was for 2.4 or something like that. Which gave us a $650,000 deficit in retirement. Circuit breaker, we budgeted 2 million. We're going to receive 1.8, which gives us a whole of 1.64 of what we anticipated our circuit breaker to be. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
How is the retirement system payout like what changed?
GIC, every,
Oh, the insurance.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
I think we budgeted, well, the district budgeted back January, February, a year ago. The numbers came out from the DOR saying you owe this much money. Yeah, there's
So
like
the other part of this
2.2.
was actually Plymouth County Retirement Board, which is all,
Yes.
they had a huge assessment put on every town in the state, in Plymouth County.
Okay.
We actually hosted an event with superintendents and business managers where we tried to convince Mr. O'Brien to push the date back that he wanted to have it funded by, to see what the impact would be if we kind of reduced that yearly payment, because everyone was getting hit with 500, 600, 700,000. Where I work, we tried to take a 0% increase in our budget this year because half the money from the Proposition 2.5 was eaten by the assessments from Plymouth County. And that's not something we can control or have any, and that was a surprise at that time
Yes.
to everybody.
We can't control it because it's an assessment, right?
Yes.
From the county to
Yes.
the town, it's an assessment,
Yes.
they send the bill and you just have to pay it.
Yes.
Town and no assessment.
That's
Sorry.
just like the towns get from us.
That's good. All right, keep going.
E4, special ed state assessments, turn along, $85. School choice state assessments, budget 293. We owe 371 for actual expenses through December, $78,000 deficit. Charter school state assessments, the same thing. 1.4 was budgeted. The extrapolation is 1.481 for a difference of 56,000. So our total expenditure deficit is $1 million. So now we add the total, step 9, we add the total deficit in payroll and expenses, and we're in the deficit of $1.2 million. So then we have some revenue sources to help with that.
Can I just ask one more
Yes.
question? I'm sorry.
No, we want the questions.
Yeah.
The regional stuff is what.
Do you need me to go back up?
The regional stuff is what I'm not as familiar about. Is it all 1/12? I mean, because you're extrapolating from July 1st to December 31st with some of these things. With all these things, right? Basically, you're saying you got a half a year, double it.
Right, yeah. We're taking what we know, whether it's.
But is everything on the regional basis, is it done in 12 months or is it done in 10 months? Because we get a lot of things that are like, you payroll. You don't really have payroll over the summertime.
For the revenue sources, it comes quarterly or based on the fiscal
But
year.
it's all 12 months.
Yeah, it comes
It's all
quarterly
spread
based on
out
the fiscal
evenly.
year.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, so I think we're in revenue sources, right?
Yep.
Okay. So E&D has been nothing budgeted. We're looking at $600,000, which is in yellow, for a reason, because that's money that has not been certified yet. So when it's certified, the recommendation would be to appropriate it the next morning to clean up the deficit that we have. There's other things that we are looking at now. George is going through, trying to find nickel and dimes here and there to reduce the amount of E&D that we may request. But that's where the E&D appropriation is $600,000 revenue. Chapter
Just
76
for the record, that
Yeah.
could have been used prior to July 15th. That could have been used to reduce. The decision was made by people that are no longer here to apply this year's circuit breaker to it, which didn't help us because you'll see above, you saw that as a deficit, you were short in the rest of this year's circuit breaker. So, but after July 15th, it's like it goes away. DOR says whatever savings you have go away until that year's end of the year report is done and yada, 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 and you cannot touch it. So it's in yellow because the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District is not saying that exists. It's because DOR is the only one that can say it's certified.
And just to clarify, because there was a lot of talk at town meeting about our bond rating. A good bond rating requires a healthy E&D, and what is it? How many million can we have in E&D? Is it 5
You
million?
can have up to 5%
of your
of
total.
your
Five
total.
of your total budget. So that's a very,
It's paltry.
it's
Yeah.
a great word.
Yeah.
And
That's-
not great.
Yeah, no, and we should not be continually going back to that to cover
Town
expenses.
expenses.
That's what
yeah.
That, the whole point of E&D is to deal with emergencies or shortfalls from, one time to another. It's not to roll it over from one year to the next and say we're gonna have it. So that's part of when we talk about 27, although we're running short of time. But when we talk about 27, that's one of the assumptions that I've asked the team to make, which is we're not gonna keep looking to E&D to fix something. We, unfortunately, and it's a hard thing to do, but unfortunately we have to fix it now so that FY27 sets us back on a path of not continually going to emergency funds to deal with what we need to do to take care of kids.
Well, that's not just E&D, that's your circuit breaker too.
Correct.
I can't keep running on $0 in circuit breaker.
Correct.
When a kid moves into town, you could be.
So the goal
Exactly.
is that the circuit breaker that we're accruing as a result of the spending this year
Yep.
would not be, would be used properly next year, pay forward. You never want to go, you don't want to,
Well,
never
probably not
want
gonna be able to get there in
No,
1 year.
but I mean, we can't go.
You gotta start.
We can't go backwards.
Building it back.
Yeah, we can't go
You gotta
backwards.
start the trend. of
Yeah.
We
building
can't
it
go
back.
backwards.
No.
Okay, so Chapter 70 state aid, we already talked about that. We thought we were getting this, then we got the surprise $75 per student for an extra $258,000. So that's revenue that we were not expecting. Charter school reimbursement, we have $55,000. That's actual revenue, and then interest revenue, we have 300. This is an estimate of the team of $310,000. We thought we'd have 165. We're expecting 475.
So
So
extrapolation is due to the Whitman Middle School ban that was taken, which is the bond anticipation note, which you do collect interest on that can then be used to offset as part of revenue. On a bond, it works very differently, but on a ban, you can. So we had a bonus of that 30 million and 20, but we paid 8 back, and then we had 22 million, and that's the whole MSBA Whitman Middle School project.
So it's my understanding that now that we've transferred that to the town, we are no longer receiving that interest.
The intermunicipality agreement does say that the town is now responsible for bonding that. They're probably gonna go long-range growth, and then what would happen at the end of it, usually in projects, is you leave like the last 6 or 8 million, because you don't know if there's contingencies built in. So if you don't spend it, you might not need it. If you do spend it, you're gonna put that ban that they take at the end does allow for an increased interest piece. But it's up to the town to say whether they're gonna bond or whether
they won't get interest
most,
on the bond.
and then get banned for a little bit more. But that is all them. What's gonna happen for the middle school project is that the state said fine, as long as they didn't have to change pro-pays, like the reimbursement money that you get back. So the district's doing the work, the town is getting the money. When we go to these meetings and we approve all our invoice, nothing to do with this budget. When we go to the meetings and approve our invoices, they will then send the money over so we can pay them with the people in the system that we have in place.
Thank you.
So let's just finish up. So we have a deficit of 1.19. We have a potential revenue of 1.22, which gives us a end of the FY26 surplus of $27,000. So right now, as we're speaking, we are anticipating closing 26 in the black. Again, we don't know what kind of snow we're going to have. We don't know what kind of crises we might meet, but this is the superintendent and superintendent are keeping a keen eye on the budget. Step 11, other unknown potential revenue sources. Medicaid reimbursement, we budgeted 175 to date, 54,000. I think we just got another $30,000 payment.
34,000.
34,000. So that's 80. So we're right about on track for our Medicaid reimbursement. Transportation, we budgeted 1.239. We just finished the FY25 end of the year report. I think we submitted 1.5 million or so in reimbursable transportation. If we get 80%, 85% of that, likely will be about that number. Homeless transportation, we budget 25. We haven't received any reimbursement yet. We'll figure that out. But we submitted, I think it was 12 students. I'm not out to the end of the year report, but we submitted our reimbursement. It's like $40,000 to DESE for homeless in and homeless out. And then any miscellaneous revenue, we received $11,000. So, but the variance, we're not quite sure. If we just go to the assumptions, we'll finish up. So these are the assumptions that, and most of them are the same as last month.
So let's leave that off for a second.
Okay.
I think the other important thing to note about 26 is, along with that landing at 26 grand in the black, is that we have been working incredibly hard with the freeze to make sure that not only have we frozen, a whole bunch of different accounts, but if there's any other possible places that we can increase the freeze or increase short spending, that we're doing that. And so we're up to
554.
So we're at
as of January.
554,000 clawing back, if you will, that we are hoping to have available either to resupply E&D or to turn around and cover the things that were potentially overspent or whatever this year, so that we don't do that again. So it's a lot of hard work in order to make that happen. It's not great because it's, there are things that we're not buying that we might have needed or wanted to buy. But it's the work needs to be done in order to set us in the right place for 27. And that's kudos. It's a lot of hard work to make that happen. But and the funny, just an anecdote, is that I was sitting on New Year's Eve watching the ball drop with the munis budget, circling things and saying, nope, nope. And then I came in on the second, my first day, and George handed me the munis budget and said, all right, all these things that are highlighted, we're going to freeze on. So we were literally doing the same thing. But
The only really the outliers would be special ed, tuitions, paras needed, utility costs, although we're having a mild winter, I think, so far. You don't know what's going to be like in February.
The number one thing, the number one variable that I'm most concerned about is the overtime. Because although it's been a mild winter, we've had a lot of ice overnight. So we have had a lot, we're down to 5 guys. We have had a lot of them have to come in and ice and sand. That there is still money in the overtime line, although I did cut it, but there is still money left in there. But that's the number one thing from where I sit in my office that I'm
How
working
was
on.
the,
I'm sorry, Rosemary had her hand up. Sorry, Warren.
Just in terms of ice and snow,
Yep.
and maybe you might help answer this, that is the only part of the budget, I believe, that we can overspend, right? And I'd love to be set and washed out, but that is.
Well, you would take, so if we exceed, listen, I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's 25,000. If we exceed 25,000 in overtime for ice and snow removal, there are other contingency lines that you could transfer out of. For example, and I have cut most of those, but I left some in it. For example, there is the extraordinary maintenance. There's the extraordinary maintenance emergency line that might have like 40,000. So that I put that at like 20. But if you're telling that we got to pay the guys for overtime because it's a bad winter, then we have to make those changes as it comes.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but I guess I'm saying.
there is a thing, to your point.
Yeah,
Mark,
that I would prioritize things that we can't literally go over.
that is that one outlier. I don't know if it's that you can overspend it or that you can use it again next year, or.
It's the one line.
Yeah,
allowed
Yeah,
to
that's
overspend.
Yep, you're right.
business management. I know that. I don't know.
With the known, well, how's your legal bills?
Legal bills, we've encumbered all of them. We're going to be, there's a lot of things going on. For special ed, we'll probably be at our apex, but we are cautiously optimistic that we still have some left.
Okay.
Yeah. We will have some left. Obviously, I didn't touch that line, and at any point in time, it could go higher.
So just for legal, we budgeted 110,000 to date. We've only been billed 13,000, 14,000. So we have 96,000 encumbered. That'll get us through the school year.
It's open,
Sorry?
Yeah.
not encumbered.
No.
No, that's encumbered.
We encumber
We
legal.
encumbered it.
Because it
Encumbered
goes
all
to, legally, it goes to the same company. So we encumber legal.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, that's a misnomer. There is a Title IX that comes out of legal, the Title IX certifications that the building principals get for about $4,500, so that would also be legal. Just want to be clear.
Okay.
All of it must be to me,
Yeah.
SC by
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Brian. Okay.
So I know we're short of time, so I'll just sort of share our work, and I'm happy to kind of quantify that a little bit and have some documentation to go along with that. But basically, since, as I said, New Year's Eve, sad but true, many of us have not stopped. So me, the assistant superintendents, Dr. Godino, the special ed director, Mr. Hyde, Mr. Stanbrook has been incredibly helpful, our former business manager, and now all of the principals, directors, we've all been getting together and nonstop sort of working on coming up with a budget for next year that's lean, that's fiscally responsible, but still meets the standards that we have for our kids' experience. So steps taken so far include a daily analysis of the entire 26 budget, as well as numerous conversations with the cost-centered directors on all of them. So that people that are owning the different things that cost us money and having lots and lots of conversations with principals, directors, transportation. What is this? Why is this so much? Blah, blah, blah. Many reviews with Mr. Hyde, Mr. Stanbrook on each and every line. Mr. Farrow and I have literally not stopped talking and looking at every single line over and over and over again. We look at the effects of the freeze and are weekly updating the freeze numbers to see if we can increase them to give us more breathing room by the end. We're looking at contracts and contract adjustments and how that's going to impact 27. I'll talk about that more in a second. We're looking at potential revenue increases, both from the towns and from the state. We are looking at one of the big things that was problematic for 26 that was impacting our planning for 27 was the end of year report for 25. So that was still outstanding and was causing DOR and DESC to have some agita, which then translated to some of us sitting here not sleeping. And thankfully the team has gotten that done, so I appreciate you guys for getting that done, and that helps us then to put that to bed so that we can move forward, not just on 26 but 27. So some of the assumptions that we have is that town of Whitman has sent to the departments a recommendation of 5% increase on the assessment, and that 5% should be used as in our planning moving forward. 5% doesn't mean that it's 5% more from the town. It's 5% of the assessment that we're giving to the town, which equates to 2 point something.
1 million, right?
Yeah. If the barometer is 5%, which is what they've always said they give from the Collins Center, and there was something that got.
Just to clarify really quickly, the Collins Center was, and then I'll point to Don,
Right.
that 5% was produced to make it so that we could go a few years.
Yeah.
It is a very suppressed number. It is highly, please show me other towns that are doing 5%. You're looking at 8-10% in most places. Show me them. It's not normal. Now, year after year, that being, I don't know if it's reasonable. And I don't know if we're going to produce what we need to produce for these kids without having that real conversation about, a competitive.
We just went with the information that we were given so far, because you have to.
But we give the information because it's our responsibility to educate these kids.
You're right.
Right.
So if they have no liability, if it falls only on the district, and they just tell us they want to pay, listen, I'd love to do that with the town too. I'd like to say, you know, I'd really like to pay $5 in taxes. You know, and you're still supposed to supply police, fire, and everything else.
Right,
I'd do that too, but you can't do that.
right.
We have an obligation. So I would like to clarify that
You're
As
correct.
much as
You're
we want-
100% correct.
as much as I want to respect that, it has to be a respectable number,
Right.
and we have to be dealing in good faith, and that is not a good faith
Yeah.
approach. They were supposed to have had an override.
Yeah. So I think to your concern, again, if we take a conservative approach, because if we take a conservative approach based on the fact that we didn't get an override, based on the fact that we're in an interesting place right now in terms of the towns and our relationship with them and all of that. If we start with that 5%, I'm not saying we end there. If we start with that 5% as a conservative figure of an increased revenue, then we go from there. And so what I'm suggesting is we take that standard amount, whether we like it or not, because I agree with you. I don't, but okay. So that would add $995,000 in revenue from Whitman. If Hanson follows with the same 60-40 kind of a split, approximately, it'll be about 780. So if you take those and you take the increase in Chapter 70, which is likely another 200,000, then that adds up to about 1.9 million, maybe 2 million in additional revenues. So there's the sort of good news. Then you have new expenses, and some of the new expenses. So first of all, we put a budget out there for this year and rolled that in at $64,560,000. But we know for a fact that that wasn't real, because we had to make about $600,000 go away in November. We can't roll that $600,000 just forward and say, oh, well, 64.5, we're just going to add 3%, so keep going. So we can't do that. So that's one of the things I think that we have to look at very carefully, is how much was in that initial estimate of how much it's going to cost to run this district that we need to take away in order to be solvent for 27. There are other new expenses that we're going to have to think about. We are renegotiating the transportation contract. The transportation contract right now is about 1.8 million. And there was information sort of put out about potential anywhere from 18 to 22% on top of that. And we're also sort of looking at our relationship with Abington and whether or not we're going to be going out to bid with them or we're going out to bid on our own. So to that extent, we have estimated, and these are all estimates, none of this is written in stone, that it's probably another $300,000 in additional costs for transportation. It's about
Where are you getting that 18 to 22% from?
from first student memo to, I think it was Abington, that you should plan on.
So I'm in my first year of a brand new contract with them.
Yeah,
And I was afraid of the same thing, and we actually landed around 10%.
really.
That's what we actually ended up in. This is the very first year right now.
Yeah. So again, conservative, because maybe it is going to come in at not 300 but 200, and yay, and then we can. But yeah,
Abington School District just voted a budget with a 20% transportation increase for next year.
Abington.
Yeah.
So we met with them today, and that's based on the memo that they got, that's what they're planning on. If they go separate and they bid on their own, there's a lot of factors in that. You know, obviously with 3 towns, Abington, Whitman-Hanson together, that's a lot more buses, a lot more kids, and so it's potentially less of an increase than if they go on their own with 9 buses and we go on our own with 18. But there's also some positives or some potential benefits that we could shift in our contract that's a little bit different than theirs, that we might incentivize in a certain way to get the costs, to get the bid to be lower. So it depends on how we write the RFP and if we're fancy and happy to get any advice. But that's something that we're going to work on. But to be conservative, we're looking at 1.8 million and saying, okay, if Abington just did put in 20%, we were putting in about 10%. So we had 200. We changed it to 300 today. So if it comes in way less, awesome. But we won't know until the RFP goes out and the bids are actually decided on, and that's not till April.
Late March, early April.
Yeah, and just to be clear, so Abington has 9 buses, we have 18. And that's because they don't bus from 5 miles, is that correct? Or not 5 miles,
Yeah,
a
this is
mile
where
and a
it
half,
gets
sorry,
funky
a mile.
because we're a regional, so we do that 0.5 to 1.5
Non-mandated.
non-mandated.
Actually, we have,
which-
it's
which
not
was
1 point, it's a half of a mile.
half a mile to
We
1.5.
yeah,
But the towns then help us with that, so they sort of pick that up. But we do that, which they don't have to do in Abington. So they're probably charging kids for anything under a mile and a half or 2 miles.
so I want to just wrap my head around this. The idea that the towns pick up that part, and I know it's not going to be a popular, but if it means that we're not going to have a teacher, or we're not going to have classrooms to get kids here to a building that we're not, that we're not servicing them once they get here, I would possibly think.
I hear what you're saying. The tricky part is that because the towns are giving us, I have to find the sheet. But
This is where I'm saying giving us would just transfer the same amount, request the same amount, or do it
Yeah.
within the budget.
No, I get it.
And bill them the same.
Yeah, it becomes a which
And
one?
it's our choice.
Yeah, which one of these works better? If they give us the 250,000 for the 0.5 to 1.5, or we turn around, I think is what you're saying, and
We can
just
build- we
build the 250 in.
Within our assessment,
Yep.
which is part of our regional
Yep.
agreement. So it's questionable how we can even do
Yep.
what we're doing. but-
Understood. Yep, good point. So then other things that are going to cost us more money, health insurance. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. My experience is that you'll only ever get one bidder,
Right.
because I'm pretty sure there's some collusion going on behind the
No.
scenes with all these bus companies.
Yeah.
But one of the things is if you combine Abington and Whitman-Hanson together, you're with 27, 28 buses, you're now taking out potentially some of the smaller companies that could have serviced one or the other.
Yes.
Oh,
And it
Because
will,
now only the bigger companies have that type of manpower, those number of buses, etc. The only potential savings I could see in that collaboration would be if you're collaborating with the dispatcher or something. So a personnel that is now you're only responsible for 60% of that salary or something in that way. So
I think one of the things we found out too is that if we write the bid without, because right now the bid's always been written that we have to, first student or whoever the company is has to house their buses in the towns. If we take that out, that would help gain smaller companies or other bidders, because like you can drive your thing, because there's a new guy in Middleborough. Middleborough just got picked up by North Star, Bright Star, some
Ocean State, right?
that too, whatever, Ocean State.
right.
And so we're hopeful if we have less runs, like you said, 18 instead of 26, 27, we might be able to attract more than one
I'm
bidder.
actually having the opposite issue. They're losing where they park the buses.
Yep.
They use their small business garage
Yep.
versus auto, and Hanover.
Yeah.
And they're asking us if we can park the buses on our property.
Yeah.
And at that point, they will reduce
Yeah.
that contract. The problem is I can't park them during the day.
Yeah.
Because the kids are in the parking lot. You know, actually the parking lots are full. So now you've got to park them at people's houses and do all that, and that
Yeah.
becomes a real pain in the neck. But there is definitely some manipulation there. I think the biggest savings you're going to get is if you can combine and not be paying the entire salary of the dispatcher or something else.
Right.
You can split that over multiple towns.
And that might be still part of our bid, because we've been, it's been the same dispatcher for the 3 towns for I don't know how long. I'm not sure why you would not continue to do that, even if it's,
When you talk about dispatcher, you're talking about the employee of the bus company?
Yeah.
the person we're sitting on the radio, and they're calling out all the buses. But
Yeah.
they're doing it for all 3 towns.
Correct, yeah, when the walkie-talkies come through both, like when we're monitoring
Yeah.
the buses,
Yeah.
it's for both,
Right.
it's for both Abington
So-
schools and Whitman schools.
You're already doing that?
Yeah.
Oh.
So we didn't get into those kinds of details today, but that might still be something that if First Student ends up bidding on both, which, as you say, is likely, we may ask to continue to have that same process because it will save everybody money. We'll see. All right, may I? And then I know we gotta go. Health insurance, you've all seen that nightmare. So we're estimating that health insurance costs are gonna go up about $300,000. Our custodial services contract is also about 1.8 million. So we're estimating that that's gonna go up about 200,000. Remember, these are very broad stroke numbers. This is not specific yet. All of the salaries for everybody who works here. So the unit, all the different unions, all of independent contracts, blah, 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 is estimated at 1.5. Is that what I have? So about 1.5 million. That's estimate now, so I don't want to speak out of turn. That's what we're thinking it's going to be. And then we're also looking at the increase in special education needs. We, like everybody else, we have about 16 or 18 preschool kids who are going to need some very specialized support. And we also have students moving from the middle schools to the high school who need additional specialized support. And so we're estimating about $480,000 in additional special education programs. So when you compare the conservative revenue of about $2 million and the potential new costs of about $3 million, we're still looking at about $1 million-ish in what we have to do in order to have an FY27 budget that's going to be solid. To Rosemary's point, that's our starting point. I can't come to you as superintendent and say, well, that's it, sorry. I have to come and say, this is the bare bones if we were able to get creative, or we're able to work town meeting in a way that we can increase those assessments or whatever, then it would look like this. So that's my responsibility, is to come to the school committee and not just present a horror show or whatever the least, but it is to come and present. Here's, if nothing better happens, then this is what we're looking at. And I do think that is important for us to be able to recognize, and again, not look at one-time sources or small things that may happen here or there to try to offset that kind of thing. We really do have to look at the overall cost for the district, and some of the key things that I have said to all who have been working on this. Some of the stance that I'm taking is that we have to recognize the difficulties that were caused by the November cuts. And we have to look to other areas aside from the classroom to manage that. That doesn't mean that we're not going to have to affect those in some way, but we cannot do that again. And we're certainly not doing it again in November. There's absolutely no way. We need to figure that out now so that we can step forward into the future and actually know that we're not going to go, uh-oh, 2 months in. That can never happen again. So I think it's incredibly important that we do that. I think to Warren's point, we cannot overspend circuit breaker again. That should never be done. I understand the dire straits that we're in, but you have to look at circuit breaker in the sort of concept of 60-40 moving forward, and you have to pay for what you need to pay for, and if you need to pay additional tuitions and you can sort of manage that up front and all that, great. But I don't think we should be looking at circuit breaker as anything but what it's meant to do, which is to pay for out-of-district placements. And finally, and I think I've said this before, but I'll repeat, is that we cannot roll prior year's debts or overspending into 27. We just can't. So those are tough things to think about and to sort of manage, but that's the work that I feel like we are doing, and it's what we owe to the school committee to do the hard work and be able to present something that is going to work for kids, and the townsfolk are looking for us to be as fiscally responsible as we possibly can, and of course to do that in a way that is making sure that our kids are getting the best experience that they possibly can. That's my spiel.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Marcus. The time is growing short, so I just want to talk about our next meeting date. We have the budget hearing on February 4th is the date, so that's 3 weeks from tonight. I think it makes sense that we meet before that again, I think. So I think in 2 weeks is the 28th. We have a school committee meeting that night as well. Does that? Right now there's a policy subcommittee meeting scheduled for that night. So at that time, but I think this is important that we do this. So if it has to mean that that I'm not here for the whole thing, or I come and or someone else, maybe you can share it or something, or I can talk to Miss Blackman, who's the chair of the policy subcommittee. Well, maybe we can move that one because that's less pressing than this one is, just in terms of the time of it. But I think, is that all right with everyone if we schedule it for the 28th? Because that'll give them 2 more weeks to do work on the budget, but give us a chance to look at what their work is before we do the budget hearing. 5 o'clock. Yep. Does that work for you, Warren?
I can do 5 to 6, and then I've got a different budget I gotta go to.
Okay. Okay. So is that all right with everybody if we set that? Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All right. All in favor? All right. Thank you guys very much, and we'll see some of you guys downstairs in 8 minutes.